Welcome everybody to another review. I'm here on a beautiful island off the coast of Cambodia. Unfortunately, as pleasurable as this view and situation is, this book is extreme death. Painful for the half-mortal. And there's lots of love in this book. I give it overall a 4.75 out of 5. Now again, this book is painful, oh my God. And I got through this book so quickly, maybe like 3 or 4 days. I just kept reading and reading and reading. And this is on par with me for Demon in White. Both of them are so far my favorite books in the series. But man, is it painful. My goodness. Like Dark Age is painful from Red Rising. Your heart toils for Mr. Harlow. Like, my goodness. But I think this is the book that needed to happen. There needed to be consequences for Hadrian's rise, and let me say, there are definitely some consequences here. Might be my favorite book in the series so far, I'm not quite sure. It's just right there with Demon in White. I really enjoyed it, and I think you should read this if you want more of the same story, but consequences for Hadrian Marlowe's rise. More consequences for the journey that Hadrian Marlowe has been put on, and consequences that don't feel cheap, consequences that feel right and earned for the story, I should say. And you need a bit of darkness in this book based on the hard sci-fi aspect. I mean, this isn't like a fantasy Lord of the Rings kind of journey, right? This is a darker sci-fi epic, so there's a lot. It gets Hadrian fully in that direction in this book. So let's start off with the world building, which to me is the highest element, the part that I enjoyed the most in this book, and that's world building for 4.75 out of 5. And a lot of that comes from, we're introduced to a new, let's say, species or a new element of humanity that exists in the universe, the Lothrian, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. That's not a spoiler, it goes right from the beginning, and I loved, that was by far the coolest part of the Sun Eater universe so far, in my opinion. The Imperium is cool, and it's been awesome to learn, and maybe because the Lotharians are so different, but that difference really enabled my joy of, oh shit, how is Hadrian going to be negotiating with this human species? You know, where like it's the most extreme form of censorship, and I haven't quite read that in a book before, so I was really enjoying seeing Hadrian Marlowe and his kind of Shanchi background that kind of still seeps through his mentality, right? Still seeks through his way of thinking. I really enjoyed that still. So that and some more extra Solarian elements, and of course more Cielcine elements. The world building just was profound in this, and kind of that balancing act, right, of, well, we're better because we're humans, and we as a culture don't accept certain things, and then again and again it's proven, well, are we better? Like, who's better? And that tension is always fascinating to read, and I'm always enjoying when that tension is between the extra Solarians, here the Lothrians, the Cielcine, these kinds of elements, right? And yeah, that world building of the Lotharians was awesome. I really enjoyed that. And of course, the Cielcines probably built up significantly here, and other elements of the story that I don't want to spoil. But if you really liked this idea of exploring other forms of human governance in the universe, you're gonna really love this book. Really love this book. I gotta say that. And I mean, that only covers about the first 30%, maybe first 25%, but those elements for me are always gonna be super enjoyable to read. So yeah, and then prose and dialogue here are at its best. There's deep darkness in this book. Darkest book of the series so far, but Christopher Ruocchio definitely handles that with care and respect. Oftentimes with these kind of darker elements, they feel cheap, like that there's no consequences for such darkness. But Hadrian's introspectiveness and reflectiveness are on par and on shine here. And I mean, there's brutal, like if you don't like that kind of stuff, this is brutal, very brutal. And sometimes the brutality and I suppose the grandiose brutality of it is a bit hard to like comprehend, but I think Ruocchio does it with respect to the point where you're invested in the story, you're invested in the darkness, and to see how Hadrian can continue his way out of it. And yeah, I think the prose and dialogue, I mean, again, I hate to keep beating a dead horse with this, but this is what Name of the Wind should be, right? Hadrian being a Gary Stu, not being a Gary Stu, and the world building, and yeah, everything is more in this. So again, man, painful, but awesome. Awesome. And one thing I had to add for Kingdoms of Death is some people might find this repetitive. I think that the Hadrian's darkness in this journey is a bit repetitive to some, and you definitely feel that. But the repetitiveness is kind of also the point, right? That's the point of when you're in his position and you're going through what he's going through. That repetitiveness is kind of the standard, or what I suppose transforms human suffering, or gives meaning, or gives some type of semblance of value. Some semblance of what it means to be in that position, right? Like we oftentimes turn to very small details to give us some type of, some value to this sufferingness and this repetitiveness of suffering, right? We turn to these kinds of things to be able to survive, right? Survive. So some people might find that long pages of him suffering in this book, the darkness in this book, to be repetitive, but I did not find it that much so, and I think for me it was really well done, and it's a lot of props to Christopher Ruocchio. Next we got plot, 4.75 out of 5. I love the twist in this book. There are multiple twists in this book. Some of my favorite in the series so far. And I have to say, this is one of the best series I've seen play when there's higher elementals at place, right? Not just, or powers, let's say, at place. Them being explained in a way that seems a bit fair, I suppose. That continues to be the case here. And again, the plot interceding with the world building elements here are awesome. Awesome. And the plot is dark. By God, it's dark. I know I'm repeating myself. It's painful. My goodness. Some of you are going to cry. But again, plot was awesome. I like that it was very much a culture clash in this series. And a culture clash, and also culture clash and manipulation at its finest, right? Not just the manipulation of the Chantry, like how the Empire is, obviously the Chantry is a manipulation of humanity inside the Empire, but the Cielcians' culture is being manipulated as well in some way. That kind of, without giving spoilers, that dynamic, like those arcs interceding with each other, was awesome. I really enjoyed that. And I'm hoping to see that continues, but that plot mechanic in itself was really enjoyable to see. And that, okay, yes, like the Hadrian's journey in this book is in some ways because of the manipulation of Empire elements in his own, who kind of, devise it in a way that we're doing this for the good of humanity. And then, since we're following Hadrian, we're like, wait, hold on, like Hadrian's doing the good thing, this is just bad humans. And then we're here with these other two elements, and we're like, well, it seems that no culture is immune to manipulation. And yeah, everything's about power. So again, found that really fascinating. And emotional impact was the highest for me by far. The only minor gripe, I would say maybe even larger than minor, let's say mid-major gripe I have, again, it's been my complaint throughout this entire series, is that the lack of small side characters, even Valka, those lack of character arcs can sometimes take me out of the emotional impact and take me a little bit out of the world building, because it's good to see other perspectives, and those other character arcs keep things interesting, right? Like Red Rising, Game of Thrones, so many other series that we love, is that other characters having their own arcs, even if they're not a POV, can really keep things engaging. So even though I'm giving this a 4.75 out of 5 easily, this was definitely the hardest hitting book for me, and still epicness maybe in the darkest of ways. The lack of character arcs, because there are some side character moments here, but they didn't just quite punch as hard for me. And I'm afraid where that's going to take me for the rest of the series. So yeah, emotional impact still super high, super awesome, but yeah, the lack of side other characters, even Valka, right? Seeing from book 1, she had her own little arc, maybe even a little bit in book 2, but now she just feels just like an accomplice, and I love that because, as we've seen, I like that there's no unnecessary romantic tension between them two. That element I love, and sometimes fantasy and sci-fi falls into that pitfall of unnecessary romantic tension. I love that this series doesn't do that, but Valka needs to have more of her own arc in this series, and I suppose she does, but too much unseen in this series. So it's my minor gripe, and I don't want to be negative Nancy. I give this a 4.75 out of 5, for goodness gracious. I got through this book fast, and again, it's the darkness of it, seeing, you know, the human horror elements combined with the world building, and Hadrian being on this dark journey not because of something, perhaps of his own political miscalculations, but I don't know. Yeah, awesome book. I don't want to get too more negative. My lowest score in this book is definitely the characters, which is 4.25 out of 5. Again, I'm very much invested in Hadrian Marlowe's journey. I'm invested to see where this goes. His arc in this, I'm really curious to see how it goes, how it pans out for the rest of the book, because obviously this is dark, so how is that darkness going to affect him? And obviously we see that in this book, but Hadrian Marlowe is just a great character, man. Just a great, awesome character. Hadrian Marlowe is a fascinating character, and I'm really in this enjoying that introspectiveness, that reflection. It's just excellently written, and I think everyone will be on the spectrum of good and awesome, or good and excellent for this book. I don't foresee many people being like below average for this book series. I just don't see it. You're gonna find something for you, but again, the characters, the lack of side characters, just, man, I know that in some of the, we do get some in the novellas, which, again, sometimes something that Joe Abercrombie does so well is that each voice feels distinct and unique, and I think Ruocchio suffers from that a little bit, not having other character voice to supplement the world building. But Hadrian's arc continues. There's nothing really to complain about that much here for Hadrian's arc. His arc continues. We delve deeper into him. That tension again of how does he become the Sun Eater is fully ingratiated here, and we probably see the largest element of that in this book, and that tension of how will Hadrian become the Sun Eater? Will he become the Darth Vader / Anakin Skywalker that has been foreshadowed, and as of consequence we see the most here. So yeah, super excited to see where that goes. So overall, I give this 4.75 out of 5, and pain, but we are here for the journey, and I'm really excited to see where this goes. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you.